Hey guys, I just wanted to do some reaction videos to. I know it's been a week since Comic Con, but if you've been watching my last Game of Thrones video, I have a lot going on in my life, and as much as I wanted to do the Comic Con reaction video earlier, I figured better late than never. I was gonna do some of the Comic Con some reaction videos to some of the Comic Con trailers that at least got the most hype. And there were shows that were interesting, like the CW shows, Justice League, Thor Ragnarok. There were plenty of other trailers that came out. If you want me to do reaction videos to those trailers, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. It's like, hey, why the hell do you not do reaction videos to those trailers? I'll be more than happy to, but you know what? These are the ones that are the most hyped about. There are a couple of them I'll probably do later on, but if there are any that you want me to do reaction videos to in particular, like I said, just let me know in the comments down below. I'm more than happy to put the time in to do that. These are the ones that kind of caught my eye, and I'm just going to do reaction videos to them as of right now. Okay, so Kara is still reeling from her decision from being forced to send Mon-El out into outer space because of the wind and Lena Luthor's device to spread lead throughout the planet in order to ward the Daxamite invasion, even though it was the size of a Jack in the Box, and I don't see how that would have been able to spread throughout the planet. I mean, I can see throughout the city, but hey, comic books. I mean, that required a lot of suspension of disbelief. But from what I'm watching, it seems like this season could go down a darker path, or maybe at least the first few episodes can go down a darker path, or maybe just Kara can go down a darker path, because it may be similar to how Clark Kent went down a darker path in Smallville Season 9 after the first Jimmy Olsen's death, and how he became kind of a darker, more brutal character. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they went down that route. And that was probably one of the better seasons of the show. But on the other hand, I know that given the track record of the Arrowverse writers, and given how the last two seasons of The Flash were probably weaker than the first season of The Flash, I can't help but worry that, the first two seasons, they've had their flaws. Like, the first season was just kind of like a very watered down, like, kind of comic book show, and, it didn't get to be as comic booky as season 2. But on the other hand, it has flaws with, plot detours and not having, I love Karma, the Karma ship. I didn't like everything both actors were given to say and do throughout the season, but they have very good chemistry, even to the point where, Chris Woods and Melissa Benoist ended up dating in real life. Like I said, I love Cyberverse as much as the next person. I guess the biggest problem I had among anything else was, two of the biggest problems I had. The first biggest problem was that it didn't have a clear antagonist. First 9 episodes, it had Katniss a clear antagonist, but the back half of it is just like there were villains of the week, and it really had a clear antagonist, and then it went back to Katniss, and then there were a few references to the Daxamites, Mon-El's parents being the villains, but it took they didn't get to the Earth till at least the back half of this, so maybe the second third of the season, and then it went back to Katniss again. It's there was no between Queen Rhea and Katniss is who was I supposed to worry about? I get how in first season of The Flash, they had the Reverse Flash, the main villain, had Captain Cold, the Rogue as side villains, but it never felt like this second season never established who was supposed to be the main villain, who was supposed to be the side villain that we were supposed to worry about. They couldn't make up their mind about that. And with Rain coming in, who was the confused girl in the crowd, the confused woman who's played by Odette Annabelle, who you may know she was in Cloverfield, and she was also, and I didn't watch the show, but she was in Brothers and Sisters. Who I guess Callista Flockhart is also one of her co-stars. Um, she's gonna play Rain, who is a world killer who was one of those like genetically engineered killing machines. Who was part of a project that Jor-El started, but he wasn't proud of it and wanted to initially shut down. And she was the one who was in the pod. He was given that anointed with blood and sent to Earth along at around the same time as Kara, or at least I should say sent off a Krypton around the same time as Kara and Clark were. And you saw the flashback in the season 2 finale. And the actress said that she's going to be unlike any other villain prior to the last 2 seasons. And I'm interested to see what she means by that. I hope it's not actually going to be some PR statement where I'm going to be let down by it. It's going to be something in which, and I've been following her on Instagram. It's been, she's been filming on set, and she's been doing motion capture stuff with her characters. So I'm kind of wondering, what direction they're going to take with that. Are they going to do a whole dynamic they did with Davis Bloom and Doomsday in season 8 of Smallville? Was a whole Jekyll and Hyde dynamic, and it was cool to see. They mentioned that Erica Durance are going to be taking over for Laura Benanti as Kara's mother, because the former was, she was too busy with Broadway commitments and whatnot to, continue with the reprising roles. So I guess the creators were just kind of screw it. We just got to give somebody who can, fill the shoes full time. And I like Erica Durant. She was great at Lois Lane. It'd be cool to see what she does and what she brings to the table as Kara's mom, and obviously in flashbacks and whatnot. And it'd be interesting to see. They also mentioned at Comic-Con that Kylie mentioned that Alex and people at the DEO were going to try to be her Barack, and it was going to be, the theme of the season was going to be about, last season was about, trying to balance, her dual identity, and season 3 was going to be about what's going to mean to be human. So my theory is that it's going to be about, it could be similar to, say, season 9 of Smallville, in which she's going to be run by a supporting cast. They're going to help her reclaim her humanity in spite of the tragedy. I mean, Chris Words, who played Mon-El, was at Comic-Con with the cast, and apparently he's going to return as Mon-El in some capacity. I mean, it's probably going to be 1 or 2 guest appearances. My theory is that wormhole that the pod sucked him into, took him into the future and became a member of the Legion of Superheroes, since it was alluded to with that Legion ring in the Fortress of Solitude. And, like I said, Rain could be Doomsday in season 8 of Smallville, where they can do a whole Jekyll and Hyde thing, I'm interested to see where that season goes. I mean, I can only speculate so much and just so much on this trailer, because I know that a lot of these Arrowverse shows, they only started filming at the beginning of July, and they only filmed maybe 1 or 2 episodes at this point. So, and it's Comic-Con was only last week, so they had so much footage to show. But like I said, I'm excited to see where this season goes. I'm a fan of the Superman franchise, Supergirl. Fingers crossed, that this would be, that Supergirl will go in the trajectory that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did, where it gets better and better with each season. Sorry, I forgot to mention, for Supergirl, the Adrian Pasdar, the person who was talking to Lena Luthor, who played Glenn Talbot on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he's going to be taking up the role of Morgan Edge, apparently, who was a crime boss in the Intergang, and also a businessman who, like you said, also appeared on Smallville in season 3, if I'm not mistaken. So apparently he's going to be, I guess, a recurring antagonist on that show, and I think it's great casting. I like the actor, and I'm looking forward to see what he does on that show.
Guys, I think we broke time.
Each of these dots represents an anachronism.
It's gonna take a lifetime to clean these up, maybe several.
There's so much to be done. Where do we start?
Welcome to the greatest show on the planet!
We're bringing the circus to the circus.
Untitled!
You 3 released a giant saber-toothed tiger. We're gonna need your shrink ray, Ray.
I'm not particularly fond of that name.
Rip has been hiding something from us. There's a greater evil coming. Tell me what we're facing here.
You and your sorry excuse for a team could never handle it.
Welcome back, Kuasa.
We're a team of outcasts and misfits. We can handle it. How is it you people haven't managed to kill yourselves yet?
Day's too young.
This is amazing! Remember, legends never die.
I hear the Titanic had amazing food.
I refuse to set foot on the Titanic. Whoever built that ship ought to be shot.
So yeah, I paused it right here because people are pointing out watching the trailer that was the same outfit worn by the Flying Graysons, the family of Dick Graysons, of course. Robin, the first Robin, who went on to become Nightwing. So obviously, I don't expect Nightwing to show up in this franchise because he's been embargoed by DC for the DCEU. But it's kind of like a nice Easter egg. But like the trailer said, I guess they're gonna address like anachronisms, which is like, you know, things and people like scattered throughout time. You know, like the dinosaur, like the T-Rexes in LA and, you know, Big Ben and all these futuristic buildings. So I guess they're going to be traveling throughout time. Like I said, they're going to be like a saber-toothed tiger through the Wriggling Barnum and Bailey Circus. Excuse me, I'm butchering that. You know, with they have Billy Zane playing P.T. Barnum. I mean, they didn't say in what capacity he was gonna. I mean, they didn't say like in what capacity he was gonna. If it was gonna be like a full season thing. They made a big deal out of it. It was gonna be like a huge guest spot, but you know, he's been in Titanic with Victor Garber, which is what I love. I love that joke at the end of it, and he's also been part of Biff Tannen's gang of bullies in the first 2 Back to the Future films, which is cool. And personally, I think he's somebody who would have had like as a fan cast as Lex Luthor in Batman v Superman, but I thought would have made a better Lex Luthor than Jesse Eisenberg. But considering that movie was crap, maybe it was a blessing in disguise that he just kind of dodged it, and maybe he just dodged that bullet. But anyway. They have Amaya, and they're still part of the team, and they said it's supposed to continue from where it left off in season 2 finale, where they have to deal with the T-Rexes and all this crap running among through this screwed up LA, and they're actually going to have like one additional cast member to the team, Talia Ash, who did I guess like some soap opera. She's going to play a hacker from the year 2030. Who comes from this alternate future in which that's been affected by, time being broken by the legend at the end of the season 2 finale. And they said at Comic-Con that she was going to be this, cynic who kind of feels like, challenge somebody who's gonna challenge the person she was gonna challenge the most was Ray's optimism, and challenge the fact that the legends have been so focused on fixing history that she's the one that coming from this dystopian future that, hey, why can't we take advantage of the fact and make history better? And apparently Kawasa, if you've ever watched the CW Seed Vixen show, which you should check out, and like the first 2 seasons are each 30 minutes each, so that shouldn't take a long time for you at all to check out. Totally worth it. She played the duplicitous sister of the modern day Vixen, Mari McCabe, who is played by Megalyn Ek, and also one of the granddaughters of this version of Vixen who's on Legends, Amaya. So it's gonna be interesting to have her facing off against a granddaughter who's just is evil as shit, and that'd be an interesting dynamic. And fingers crossed that, hey, maybe these seasons have been like 16, 17 episodes. I mean, I know that they couldn't get Megalyn Ek to reprise her role, and that was the original intention for season 2 for the modern day Vixen to join this team. Maybe she'll so much as a cameo. One can only hope. And also, in addition to just I don't know if they just Kawasa is going to be like the main villain. Like, they also, Mark Guggenheim talked about how Neil McDonough was going to be reprising his role as Damien Dark. I mean, maybe there'll be like a few episodes, maybe for like a couple of episodes. I'm not expecting him to be the main villain. I hope he's not the main villain, considering the fact that I don't want him to be in a position, with Malcolm Merlyn, where I feel like they overuse that character to the point where that people get you're oversaturated with them, and because it wasn't, cause at least well, Malcolm Merlyn was not always a nuanced villain. I'm not, I love John Barrow, but even I can admit that even Malcolm Merlyn wasn't always a nuanced villain. Like, he was nuanced in, say, like season 1 of Arrow and Legends season 2, but even Damien Dark can admit he was kind of like a Bond villain with superpowers. So like I said, I don't want to overuse that villain. And of course, the Legends had to go up against the Time Bureau, which has been formed by Rip Hunter, and take the place of the Time Masters in terms of fixing aberrations and screw-ups in history. And he decides, when he decides the Legends are too much of a handful in terms of they don't have enough finesse and subtlety in terms of fixing history, and that's going to create the dynamic between with Talia Ash on the team. She's going to play Isis, who they said was also not only a hacker but a reincarnation of Isis from ancient Egypt, which is like, hey, we can make history better. Time Bureau is going to be like, no, we got to fix history, finesse and subtlety. You guys screw it up as much as you try to fix it, and it's going to create this interesting dynamic. And my only hope is that they don't have to do something like blow up the Time Bureau or something like they had both the Time Masters at the end of season 1, because Rip Hunter as a character, through the multiple iterations that Darvo played, he actually kind of grew on me. But I'm going to this with optimism, considering that Legends, I felt like was the strongest of the 4 CW shows this past year. And, hopefully that will continue that trend and avoid the season 3 curse that Arrow and Flash did, in which the writers got, lazy and complacent with the storytelling to the point where the writing became kind of just lackluster. And I'm hoping that doesn't happen with Supergirl either. They can only go up from here. You know what I mean? Love that intro.
Think about why I chose the name Prometheus. He challenged the omnipotence of the gods.
He's going to be a tough act to follow.
They play judge, jury, and executioner.
He can be a tough act to follow as a villain, by the way.
Prometheus took away their power.
The people closest to you always pay the most for their sins. You are paying for your fathers. Who will pay for yours?
Oliver's gonna come for us.
Yeah, I'm counting on it, sis. I need your help. My past is coming back to haunt me. Hello, Oliver. Welcome back to Purgatory.
This finale kicked all kinds of ass. It was my favorite episode. One of my favorite episodes. Nope.
Oliver, do you copy? Chase sabotaged the plane. We can't get off the island.
There's an Argus supply ship on the eastern shore.
That's on the other side of the island.
Slade knows where it is. Go now.
Hey. Hey, Oliver says there's a boat on the eastern shore.
You lot won't make it in time. I'll take my own chances.
William's younger than you were. So he's gonna be fine. What do you say?
I have to find William. Samantha! Samantha!
Because it's gonna be lonely without Mom and Felicity.
No, Adrian!
It's just a dream.
It's real. It's what happened.
Where do you think the bad man is?
Here.
I got it from here.
We walk in two worlds. We can only do that for so long.
So yeah, like I said, you know, with Legends being the best show of the 4 DC shows, Arrow was the second best, and considering, you know, season 3 of Arrow was messy, and just season 4 of Arrow just being a complete and utter dumpster fire, the first 9 episodes notwithstanding. Season 5 was such a comeback that I gotta say, it's probably it ended up being my second favorite season after season 2. And Jason Segura was one of the best villains in the show, and probably the whole franchise. Like, he killed it. He killed it. And not to mention, Stephen Amell. This was his best acting in the show thus far. Like, it was amazing. Given with season 6, the cliffhanger they ended on, which I thought was kind of silly because, I mean, they announced like months before that Rick Gonzalez, Juliana Harkavy, and Katie Cassidy, who are going to be playing Wild Dog, Dinah Drake, and Black Sign, respectively, were coming back as season regulars. They kind of took away from the suspense of Prometheus, you know, becoming the Dead Man Switch, which, if you ever read the Injustice Gods Among Us comics, in which the Joker hooked up Lois Lane's heart to a detonator, that when her heart stopped and Superman was brainwashed and accidentally into killing her, that detonated all of Metropolis. It was kind of a similar thing to when Adrian put a gun to his head and blew his brains out. But like I said, like, in most of the cast, was at Comic-Con, so you know a lot of them are probably going to survive the explosion. But it's interesting to say that, you know, Slade saying is like, "You'll never make it in time. I'll take my chances," which is kind of like, it's kind of interesting because you think he would be a little more altruistic because the effects of the Mirakuru wear off as implied in the finale, and you know, but I guess in later incarnations of the comic books, Deathstroke was more of an anti-hero, and I guess this is a more testament to the fact that he's not, too straight-laced, which, I'm fine with that. But, Samantha saying, like, oh, gotta go find William. It's pretty obvious to me that the people who are going to die in the explosion on Lian Yu are everybody who was associated with Prometheus, like Talia al Ghul, her clan of like ninjas, and Artemis, who, the person who played her was a pretty decent actress, but I feel like she was so poorly written to the point where she became this like snotty, self-righteous character that even though I've I've been fed up with the fact that the showrunners in the Arrowverse franchise have done a really haphazard job over the years of handling female characters across the board. There's still a part of me that can't help but say, like, good riddance to her. So she's gonna die, Tali's gonna die, all the ninjas that she trained are gonna die, and apparently, Oliver's baby mama, Samantha, is probably going to die in the explosion. And it may be a bit of a stretch, but maybe even Quentin lands because of the fact that that Paul Blackthorne was not with the rest of the cast at San Diego Comic-Con this year, and it was never, and nobody like actually addressed that, so, or like running, and nobody, like, even at the panels and the interviews I watched, like, nobody brought attention to that, so I mean, it would be kind of shocking because he's probably like the best actor on like one of the best actors on that cast. So it would be kind of an anticlimactic way to give the character a send off. Even though they're going to do flashbacks in the season 6 premiere as to who survived and who died, but I would find that a disappointment personally, just because I would have liked to have at least seen more scenes between him and Earth 2 Laura Lance, if nothing else. And they said, and Mark Guggenheim said that, I think they said, like, season 5 was supposed to be about, redemption, season 6 was supposed to be about the theme of family, and they're going to focus on, Oliver, becoming more of an active parent to William, presumably because Samantha dies on the island, and and Stephen and Mel mentioned that I guess because the shooting schedules for this show and the Sonara Chronicles are, they don't coincide, that I guess Mano Ben is going to have going to be a recurring character throughout season 6, which is cool because it would be cool for him to be kind of like the frenemy to Team Arrow in a similar capacity that Malcolm Merlin was to Team Arrow, except that and hopefully this is going to be more well done, because I just felt like, Malcolm Merlin was just kind of this just like pretentious dick who just threw his weight around, and they had no justifiable reason to have that character around, other than the fact that the writers want to have John Berman have a steady paycheck, and they were afraid of pissing off like Doctor Who fans or the LGBT community if they killed him off in the past. I mean, like I said, I love John Barrowman. I've seen him at at least his videos, Comic-Con videos at like various Comic-Cons, and he's pretty much like the Jim Carrey of the sci-fi universe, of a sci-fi community, but like his character Malcolm Merlin, I just felt like he kind of overstayed his welcome. But anyway, I feel like like I said, the Slade Wilson dynamic, Team Arrow, is gonna be better executed as a frenemy to the team than Merlin was. I've seen Dinah Drake's costume online. It looks totally badass. I'm so glad Katie Cassidy's back, although there's still a part of me that's disappointed that the writers didn't take advantage of the fact that they could have made Black Siren the new Black Canary, and basically made her like the team asshole of Team Arrow in the same capacity that Earth 2 Harrison Wells was in season 2 of The Flash, or like Cordelia Chase or Spike were on the earlier seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But I don't know. I mean, I can get behind Dinah Drake, but I feel like after her initial appearances, that like yeah, she had the backstory about her lover being murdered, eventually avenging her, but the vengeance felt empty. Finding her own apartment and joining the Star City PD. But I feel like afterwards, it just felt like she was kind of another fighter on the team. So I mean, people complained about Earth One Laurel being, including a close friend of mine, would say the same thing. And I don't know, like I said, it just goes back. I don't know like what kind of capacity that Black Siren's going to play in, aside from being a villain on the show. And again, it goes back to how the writers on this franchise like handle female characters, but they did say they were going to go into season 6. Because they're done with all the flashbacks with Oliver Queen. They're going to focus on the flashbacks and supporting characters, including Black Siren, and how that version of Laura went so far off the deep end as to become a supervillain and join up with Zoom and etc. And maybe kind of wonders, like, they mentioned, Earth 2 Oliver dying and having go off the deep end, and makes me kind of wonder that other members of her family die on Earth 2, including Dinah, Sarah, and Quentin, that I'm assuming, I would think that they must have all perished in some point, because clearly she's gone through a lot more crap than Earth One World did if she became a supervillain. But again, season 5, proved to me, and I think a lot of fans of the show, this series still has some life in it, and I'm looking forward to season 6 and the stuff they're going to be doing for it, and I'm so excited for it. I'm glad it stuck it out as long as they did, in spite of its low points, and I just can't wait to see like the direction the series goes in.
My name is Iris West.
Will you marry me?
Yes. And I was supposed to marry the fastest man alive.
Keep loving, keep running for me.
I promised him I'd run. So that's what I've been doing. Running. As fast as I can.
I like her haircut.
How could you possibly be fine?
Dad, what do you want me to do? Curl up in a ball and cry all day?
Sometimes I feel like if I believe in something hard enough, that'll make it real. I miss my friend.
Barry's not coming back.
You don't know that.
Barry told me to be strong. I'm being strong. Guys, what are we looking at? Expecting someone else?
Hey.
I don't understand. This should have worked.
Dead bang, fellas.
Reach out to the pipeline!
You're up against some bad hombres. And what do you think you're gonna do against us with a sword?
Ask and answer.
Bring me the Flash, or else your city falls.
The hell kind of sword is that? If we don't offer up the Flash, people are gonna die, and that's gonna be on us. I made a few slight modifications, as Captain Solo would say. Iris, you of all people, how can you not be in on this?
I've got a lock on something.
It's him! It's him!
Now, Cisco!
So yeah, I like that trailer. I don't know. I guess especially with the teaser, it offers the least amount of information. But like I said, like these Arrowverse shows have only shot like 1 or 2 episodes, like right before Comic-Con, just to show off these trailers. They did mention that Iris is going to play. Was going to take over as leader of Team Flash in Barry's absence. I mean, they said that so far she's not going to do anything related to her job as a reporter at CC Picture News, which is disappointing and as frustrating as hell, because I don't know what's so hard for them to do that when they've been able to do like a few episodes here or there. And You know what? The thing about it is that they keep saying like, "Oh, Iris is going to play a major role," but I feel like this is something that's going to last for like one episode, and then we're going to have to wait for another like 10, 15 episodes like last season for them to give Iris West agency again. Even Candace Pan is like kind of frustrated with that. She tries to act like she's not frustrated with it, but I mean she's got to be in like some capacity. And like I said, they even meant Daniel Pandabaker and the showrunner Todd Helbig's thing is like, oh, they're still not gonna have a love interest. She got her own stuff to work out, but it's like they said the same crap last season, and they still had the whole love interest thing with Julian Albert, and it was like another relationship that was doomed to fail because of her whole dilemma with Killer Frost. I mean, it's surprising to see her back on the team and kind of back to normal. Granted, I don't think it's going to be as Coca as like, oh, she's going to like get rid of her powers and things are going to be back to normal, because Daniel Pandabaker said we were going to see more of Caitlin Snow and Killer Frost, and we won't be disappointed. My theory about that is that instead of Caitlin having with her alter ego having a more like Jekyll and Hyde kind of dilemma, that she's going to be like the team's version of like Bruce Banner, Incredible Hulk. Kind of like how, on Avengers 1 and 2, and how in scenes of like, if you watch Age of Ultron, where it's like they were out battling like Ultron and other villains, and Bruce Banner was like, hanging out in the Quinjet and asking like, hey, is it a code green? Like, I feel like we're going to have like a similar situation where it's like, they're going to have her on the team, and there'll be situations where things get so bad, they're just going to ask her to like take off her choker, which is probably going to act as her like power dampener, and just like ask her to cut loose. Personally, I would have liked her to have been a villain. If they're going to turn her back into make her a member of Team Flash again, I just feel like the whole stint of her villain, Earth One's version of Caitlin as the villain was short lived. It was like kind of the same thing with Savitar, where it's like with the reveal of him turning out to be an evil time remnant of Barry, where it's like they should have revealed that earlier. Caitlin becoming Killer Frost, that should have happened earlier. And like both actors gave great performances as villains, but they were poorly handled and written, and I just feel like I said, their stints as villains were short-lived and like climactic. And apparently Cisco's presumably modified the Speed Force bazooka that was supposed to be used on Savitar to trap him in the Speed Force, and was eventually used to free Jay Garrick from the Speed Force. So apparently Cisco can use the same device to free Barry. And the fact of him like running through a train station, my theory is that, because being in the Speed Force, it can look like places on Earth, and maybe Barry, that's just basically Barry in the Speed Force, I don't know, like running around for some reason, like perpetually, like nonstop, like kind of like, I don't know, like I had like Lex Luthor doing with Bart Allen, like season 6 of Smallville, if you ever watched that, maybe he's like perpetually running around the Speed Force, because the description of season 4 is saying he was trapped in his own personal hell, and given the Speed Force has been depicted as a more malevolent force in last season, I'm sure like Barry's gonna gone through some of his own personal hell, because even Grant Gustin says he's gonna come out of Barry's gonna come out of the Speed Force of Beard, and presumably suffer from PTSD from having to relive the beginning and end of his life like multiple times over, and even though he's only been in the Speed Force for 6 months, it will feel like multiple lifetimes, and it's gonna like really mess with his head. And there's gonna be this whole like drama with Iris, the fact that he decided to like right on the spot, like, hey, I'm gonna go in the Speed Force and pay for my sins, and Iris is gonna be like, what the hell, like you left me alone for 6 months, and we didn't get it was kind of like a split-second decision, and I had to like go on without you. We're supposed to get married and all this stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what that drama's going to play out. I mean, the villain with the sword, he's supposed to be Samuroid. And, when he says, like, bring me the Flash or City Falls, I'm assuming that's presumably the reason why there have been shots released on set of Keenan Lonsdale wearing one of Barry's suits, he said he's not going to take up the mantle of Flash, but I think he's going to look like he's taking up the mantle of Flash to fool like people like Samurai and people to prevent people from realizing that the Flash is missing, the same way that John Diggle took up the Arrow mantle briefly in season 3 of Arrow to prevent people from realizing that the Arrow was missing. But then, of course, they're going to presumably fall through, and why this is going to finally decide, you know what, I modify the Speed Force bazooka, I'm getting Barry out of the Speed Force, and that's what's going to lead to him being freed. And, the show's called The Flash. Grant Gustin's a lead. Like, I do not expect him to be gone for more than... He's probably going to be back by the end of the first episode. I mean, even Grant Gustin implied that much. Like I said, I felt like season 3 was a letdown, and the people have... The cast and crew has acknowledged that, like the dark turn that the last couple of seasons have taken, that it was supposed to go back to be more lighthearted like season 1. So I hope it's just not an empty promise, because I just kind of feel like this. You as a viewer to a big fan of the show, you kind of feel like this abused lover going back to their shitty lover, hoping things will be different and feeling without. But it's also hard not to go into this without some feeling of trepidation. Okay, that was just all kinds of epic. Like, God. Holy shit! I gotta get caught up on finish season 2 of Daredevil for sure. I still gotta watch Luke Cage and Iron Fist, the one I'm least forward to watching because everyone has said it's horrible, and from the bits and pieces I've seen online, the fight choreography totally sucks. That being said, I mean, I want to watch it just to make sure how everything's connected, but like I said, just like I enjoyed the whole dynamic of people trying to they always heroes like the Avengers will always heroes just working together, having to learn to work together and clashing. We're getting more of that over the course of 8 episodes. This is the kind of thing you wish it was 12, but I guess supposedly it's supposed to be 8, but I'm looking forward to it, and it looks like it's going to kick all kinds of ass.
So much has happened since I last saw you. I lost my hammer, like yesterday, so that's still pretty fresh.
And then I went on a journey of self-discovery, where I met you.
Where are we? You have no idea. Hela, the goddess of death, has invaded Asgard.
Oh, I've missed this.
And you and I had a fight recently.
Did I win?
No, I won, easily.
Doesn't sound right.
Well, it's true.
Asgard is dead. And it'll be reborn in my image. I thought you'd be glad to see me.
I need to stop her here and now to prevent Ragnarok, the end of everything. So I'm putting together a team. Like the old days.
Surprise!
This would be such fun.
Hello.
Hi.
He's a fighter.
Here we go! I'm not a queen or a monster. I'm the goddess of death. What were you the god of again?
We're the same, you and I. Just a couple of hot-headed fools.
Yeah, same. Hulk like fire, Thor like water.
Oh,
Kind of both like fire.
But Hulk like raging fire. Thor like smoldering fire.
Okay, so that was fucking awesome. That looks like it's gonna be the best Thor movie of the three. Mark Ruffalo didn't mention at Comic-Con that Hulk has, I guess, presumably been on Sakaar somehow for the last 2 years and been in Hulk form. And that's why he's developed his own, like, he's started, like, the Hulk speak and started talking like Hulk like fire, Hulk like smoldering fire, because, like, because Mark Ruffalo has been in the Hulk form for 2 years straight, and it's only till Thor shows up that he reverts back to Bruce Banner and has no recollection of what's happened, which is why, of course, it has the comedic moment where Thor says, like, oh, I beat you easily. And the director mentioned that it was going to be more like a buddy road trip comedy. I mean, I'm a little apprehensive about that because, it is Thor Ragnarok, which is supposed to be, the Norse apocalypse of the Norse gods, like the end of days, the twilight of the gods from the Norse gods. So I hope it's not going to be too much like Iron Man 3 with like too much comedy to undercut the drama and the tension. I do like the idea of like Thor teaming up with the Hulk and Loki, because you become kind of like this anti-hero and realizing that, and because of the fact that Hela, the god of death, has become such a major threat that they realize they got to put the differences aside and work together. They're going to bring in Valkyrie as well, and they've got a person of color to fill that role. Like I said, this looks like going to kick all kinds of ass. The stuff where Mjolnir being destroyed by Hela. There was scenes in like the teaser trailer where Thor and Loki were going to spend some time on Earth trying to find Odin, because that's where apparently Loki banished him when he overthrew Odin at the end of Thor: The Dark World. Apparently, he's presumably been like a nomad and stranded there ever since for several years. And, of course, Thor's going to realize that Loki took his place. So, and like I said, it has like a very modern, it has a lot of like style and tone, the Guardians of the Galaxy, albeit more present and modernized, which makes sense because both, like they established, like the Asgardians and whatnot as aliens, and they mentioned that Thor Ragnarok is going to lead directly into Avengers Infinity War. So maybe there'll be a teaser for that movie and him, and maybe Thor meeting up with Guardians of the Galaxy, which would be pretty cool. Like I said, this is gonna be like I feel like it's gonna be a blast. Like I'm more excited for this movie than ever. I gotta say, like I really don't know what else to say. Yes.
What did you do this weekend, Diana?
Me? Nothing very interesting.
The world remains in mourning after the death of the Superman.
What we're saying is a crime wave around the world. Next to Thor, the Arkham Asylum. And where is the Gotham Bat? The mass vigilante has been a no-show.
They said the age of heroes would never come again.
It has to. We don't have any more time.
Something is coming.
No protectors here. No lanterns.
No lanterns.
No Kryptonian. This world will fall.
Steppenwolf.
Like all the others.
one misses the days when one's biggest concerns were exploding wind-up penguins.
This is crazy. Honestly, I think we're all gonna die.
Each of us, in some way, is held back.
Don't engage alone. We'll do this together.
It's really cool. You guys seem ready to do battle and stuff, but I've never done battle. I've just pushed some people and run away.
Relax, Alfred. I'll take it from here.
Do I know you?
Superman was a beacon to the world. He didn't just save people. He made them see the best parts of themselves.
All right.
I don't recognize this world.
We don't have to recognize it. We just have to save it. How many of you are there? Not enough. Do you really think that...
Oh, wow, they really just vanish. Huh? Oh, that's rude.
You said you'd come. Now let's hope you're not too late.
I gotta say, the more trailers I see for Justice League, the more excited I am for this. This is going to be all kinds of awesome. That being said, they did say the movie was... I heard the movie was supposed to be close to 3 hours long, which I'm not thrilled about. I know some people are going to be like, oh, was it better for the movie because, you know, Batman v Superman, the theatrical cut was like, you know, was a disappointment. And they said the ultimate cut was close to 3 hours long and that there was more story to it. But from my experience, it's very rare that I've seen movies where where movies have been close to 3 hours long and you didn't feel the length and you didn't feel like dragging on. Like, I think like The Dark Knight Rises and arguably the last couple of Hobbit movies are like the only films where it just felt like they were close to 3 hours long and didn't feel like a drag and didn't feel like, oh my god, you know what, I'm having a good time, I need to get the fuck out of this theater. So, personally, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing for this. I mean, people who have been jaded from Batman v Superman, I mean, they're probably thinking like, oh, it's gonna be better the longer the better. Like, I'm probably in the minority where I think like, no, it's not. Like, you need to tell the story, you know, very concise. I don't think this is gonna be, and I really see a movie that could drag on, and that could be a major flaw. This was gonna be close to 3 hours. Like I said, you know, I was disappointed with Zack Snyder, and I don't think he's like one of the worst directors in Hollywood, but I'd always felt like with the DCEU, it always seems like he feels like he needs to direct movies like that, you know, with Batman, Superman, and people and characters in the main DCEU with the same style and tone as Watchmen. And even though it worked for that movie, it doesn't necessarily work for these movies, which is why I thought Batman v Superman was at least a disappointment. And the only thing that kept Man of Steel from being like a terrible movie was Christopher Nolan being the producer and the co-writer of this and keeping Zack Snyder on the short leash. I mean, granted, he surprised me when I found out he was actually one of the co-writers on Wonder Woman, which was, you know, universally praised as one of the best movie in the DCEU thus far, and one of my favorite superhero movies in recent memory and of the year, because of the lighthearted tone it had, especially for the DCEU, and how it had a similar tone to the 1978 Superman movies, or the 1978 Superman movie, because that was Patty Jenkins' influence on it. I feel like Ezra Miller's Flash is going to be, like, comic relief is going to be hilarious in this. you know, like I said, like I'm gonna go into this with some measured optimism, but I can't help, the more I see this, I can't help but get more excited and like buy into the hype for this. And you know, these trailers have made me excited for these two movies, these shows, etc. So my question to you guys is, which of the trailers did you watch? Did you enjoy the most? Which was your favorite? What are you most excited for? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.